All right, all right, all right. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Ooh,
Hey,
Lord, you know we gonna start it off. You already know what it's gonna be tonight. You already know what it's gonna be tonight. So we don't even need to fake the funk. We got Jane Doe and another Diddy special. So I don't know what you're gonna do,
what
but
you want to do? What you want to do? Oh,
it's all about the Benjamins tonight. That's all we talking about because we talking another civil suit. We talking another opportunity for somebody to get some of these Benjamins. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not even in a bad way. I'm acknowledging that it's about the Benjamins because that's what it is. This is a civil suit. You're not going to send him to jail. He's not going to do any of these things. He's not going away. He's going to pay if and only if a settlement occurs or they go forward with this case and actually get a judgment from the court saying we believe Diddy is liable of what happened. So shout out to those who are all about the Benjamins like Diddy is. Hey there, Rigo. Thank you for
hey,
another
Rigoberto.
one.
Hey, and Diddy's not the only one that's about those Benjamins. Apparently, some Jane Does want to get in on the action too.
Look, Jane Doe's ain't playing tonight. They're very much. It's right here. This is the mode all night long. Rigo, you want to know what the music of the night is? It's all about the Benjamins. So we're not even gonna fake the funk tonight. All right. So tonight we have a Jane Doe that is alleging SA against not only Diddy, but others. And we're going to chop up this lawsuit as we love to do.
Yes.
And we are going to give you guys the Two Lawyers Talk Legacy special tonight as we share some of our thoughts and perspectives about this yet another civil suit. And I'm just going to keep saying this because I feel like social media is doing this injustice. This is a civil suit. So we don't even need to say the words money grab because money is the only thing at issue in a civil suit.
Wait, no. Here's my question, Sandy. I have one initial question. Oh boy, oh, my tears are coming already. Oh boy, this is my question. Is why is it that it seems like Cassie's lawsuit opened up the floodgates?
I mean, we knew that it was going to happen. I think the problem that I'm having with it opening the floodgates is it seems as though they are using Cassie's lawsuit as if Cassie won her suit, right? They're not using her lawsuit as if
She
it was an
did win.
allegation that was settled. There is no win there. When
She
there's a
did win.
settlement,
What are you talking about? She did
she
win.
won in the court of public opinion. And
She
that to
won
me,
in the bank account, in her bank account. She
well,
won.
I mean, if we're just talking about the Benjamins, and here we go. If we're just talking about the
That's all
Benjamins, then
we
yeah, she
talking
won.
about. That's all
She
we
won
talking
Benjamins.
about.
But what I'm talking about is she did not win her case in court, right? So we cannot say that Diddy did what she alleged because that was not determined. And we cannot say that Diddy is this and Diddy is that based on Cassie's suit because her suit is no longer. It's over.
Okay, Sandy. Now you know in law school you studied about circumstantial evidence and that type of thing.
It's out the door.
If you bake a cherry pie and you leave it on the table, and you come back in the kitchen and your little nephew sitting at the table, you know him. I know him too, and he got cherry pie all right here and all up here, and you see a piece of the pie is gone. You cut it in 4 slices, quarters, and 1/4 of that pie is gone. You did not see him eat that pie. However, you deduce that he ate a slice of that pie. Why do you deduce that?
In the court of public opinion, you've won your case. In the court of law, you have zero.
No.
You know what you have in the court of law? A settlement. And you know what a settlement says? We've both agreed to settle this case. Therefore, I, Diddy, am not liable for anything. You can't call me a certain name. You can allege what you want, but you can't call me a certain name because I wasn't found to be that, number one. Number two, we've settled for money, which is what you wanted anyway. right? And we have not established that I did what you alleged in your court case.
But what it looked like,
It can look
though,
like anything.
what it looked like. That is
I'm
the question. Let me tell you something. You make these allegations against me, I pull out my checkbook, I write check, I pay. You make these allegations against me in the court of public opinion or in court for real. I pull out my checkbook, I write check, I pay.
So let me ask you, Lisa, if you wrote those checks, would you want anybody to be speaking about those cases beyond you writing those checks?
No, but it doesn't matter what it looked like, though. That's my question.
But I'm sorry, my lawyer hat says I don't care what it looks like. What my lawyer hat says is there was a settlement and we're done. So now if we want to talk about Cassie's case, the only thing we can say about her case is her case was settled. Her case proved nothing. Her case presented nothing. And her case established nothing. Now, court of public opinion, we can run with it all day because right now here's where we're gonna be. we're gonna be cracking jokes and carrying on and talking about all kinds of things. But when it comes to new lawsuits being filed utilizing Cassie's lawsuit, there's going to be a huge issue because they're going to be trying to use witnesses and statements and things that were alleged in her lawsuit that were never presented and proven in a court of law. And there was no judgment based upon those allegations. So we have zero, nothing. So when we read this case, I'm already from the first few lines of the case looking like, where's your case? Like, I want to see your case. I don't want to hear about Cassie's case.
This is lawsuit number 5.
I thought this was 4. This is 5?
I believe it says this is now the 5th lawsuit filed against Mr. Combs. This is what they're alleging anyway.
Okay, we need to know what the other one was because we don't have that one.
In paragraph number 5, I believe it says that.
Rigo says, but the reason that was settled is because she sued Diddy as an employee because he had history and Diddy made her travel and have sex. Trafficking accused by her. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for the settlement. We're estimating what we think, but honestly, none of us knows. None of us even knows who paid that settlement. It could be an insurance company. It could be one of the companies. It could be chip-in from all the companies. And it could very well mean Diddy didn't drop one penny. We don't know. And we'll never know because nobody is going to ask their client, and I'm talking both Diddy and Cassie, nobody's going to ask their client to enter into a settlement agreement allowing all kinds of stuff to be discussed, right? They're going to settle and say the case is over. This ends now. There should be no more talking about it. Confidentiality, done, zero, zilch. Case is over.
Should be. Yeah.
Tam is in the building. Good evening, Tam.
Thank you. How are you?
Tam says, sweet can of corn, Diddy in trouble. Here we go. We got to play the music again. Oh, Lord. You're going to have me playing this shit all night. It's all about the Benjamins tonight.
All about them Bennies, baby.
So Tam says, I wonder if they are utilizing the same lawyer. Okay, I got to pull up. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up the other lawsuit too, so I can have that open when we're done looking at this one. Because I almost think that it was the same. Was it the same?
Well, it's nice that she put pictures in her lawsuit.
Let me see what lawyer this is.
Of her in some certain compromised positions as a 17-year-old with Mr. Combs.
Allegedly. That's a big allegedly, because I was just like
big allegedly.
Hold on one second. Let me see what lawyer this is. Lisa, look at the bottom of that one. Tell me what lawyer it is, because this one says Phillips. Oh, it's not the same lawyer, because I think I saw the name. So this one said the previous lawsuit with the Dickinson lady was somebody from Phillips.
Yeah, this is Wigdor LLP.
Okay, so this one is a different
name
one.
of the firm. This is a firm that's made up of 3 attorneys out of New York, though.
Them attorneys about to clean up shop. They're about to clean up shop, I tell you right now. All right. So I think we should get into it and start to chop up. Tam is laughing at us. I think we need to chop this up and get into this lawsuit. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and we're going to chop that up. But in the meantime, guys, we have surpassed our goal of hitting 500 subscribers. So you already know. It's all about the Benjamin. We need to get monetized. We need to have some life over here in this YouTube space. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to our Two Lawyers Talk Legacy here on Learn Biz, the podcast. We love you guys for supporting us and continuing to subscribe, watch our videos, like our videos, share our videos. So please continue to do so. And please help us as we hit our road to 1,000 subscribers. That is our next goal. Shoot, right now we're at about 580, I think. So we tapping in there.
We getting there.
All right, we tapping in there. All right, so now that we've gotten through some basics, let's go ahead and get into this lawsuit. The lawsuit is filed by a Jane Doe.
Yeah.
And that's a little different of a situation because normally you want to be able to face your accuser. But please understand, this is not a criminal case, right? In a criminal case, Lisa, do we have Jane Does?
No, Jane Doe should be. I remember. Well, you know what? These days, because of certain what you can't say that one word, SA victims.
Yeah,
you know that R word.
Great.
There, certain jurisdictions have come up with this thing like under certain circumstances, the victim doesn't have to be punished again by sitting there under the watchful gaze of the alleged victim.
Okay.
And so there are certain rules, and it might be age issues and things like that when there are some exceptions about confronting your accuser.
Okay.
Like I feel like if somebody accused you, they should stand front and center in public. If you tried in a court of law, I want to know who my accuser is. Don't hide behind no wall and I don't even know who you are and you Jane Doe and John Doe. How do you defend that?
I mean, that's facts. I would want to be able to face the person that's making especially allegations like this. So I mean, you know, we'll see what happens here. So this case was filed today. I don't know what time today, but 14 pages of loveliness filed today. It was filed with a jury trial demand, which basically means what, Lisa? When they say they want a jury trial, what's the difference between jury trial and other trials?
They don't want the judge to be the only one that decides the outcome of this case. They rather have at least 8 people, probably somewhere between 6 and 8 people who are made up of voting citizens who are supposedly pulled in randomly as potential jurors. And if those folks show up for jury duty, they can end up on this jury panel and become the jurors who actually decide the case.
Oh, okay. That works. So they have a choice of filing a case to go before the judge only or before a jury. And the number of people on the jury, if I'm remembering correctly, varies depending on where you are.
Yeah, I think you get the most jurors in a criminal case because obviously the ramifications of a criminal case are much more serious where you can lose life, liberty, property, that type of thing. So, yeah, but there are a smaller number of jurors potentially on civil cases.
All right, so let's see here. We have Jane Doe is the only plaintiff here, and we have this case is against Sean Combs, Harve Pierre, the third assailant, which is a strange. What do you mean the third assailant? Who the heck is the third assailant?
Some company, probably.
Daddy's House Recordings, Inc., and Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Inc.
Wow.
Now, this is a strange one because this is a Jane Doe, so I don't know what her affiliation is with the companies. I mean, if you're saying that Sean Combs and Harve Pierre and this third assailant did something to you, I'm a little curious about how any companies were involved, unless, let's say, you were attending a company event at the time, or you're accusing the company of negligent hiring. I know that there's some things with those types of things. or you're accusing the company of vicarious liability, or I mean, what other things can you think
Oh,
of, Lisa?
wait a second. No, I'm looking at allegation number, excuse me, this is number 16. She alleges the R word by Mr. Combs, Mr. Pierre, and third assailant. Third assailant is a person.
Okay, but how does this all connect to a business? Does she say
I don't,
anything?
unless
We
they
done skipped down way down to 16. I didn't even get to number one. Lisa already on
uh,
16. Look at this, y'all.
well, because you asked the question about, and I want to know who third assailant was. Third assailant, I thought it was a company. It looks like a person.
Oh, it was founded and owned by Combs. But here's the weird thing. A company can't commit an assault unless you're saying that he was acting in the capacity of the company or something, or the company co-signed what was happening. So I don't.
Well, actually, I think the incident happened at Daddy's House Recording Inc. So it happened at one of the companies, and obviously he's in charge of Daddy's House. It's owned and operated by Daddy's House, which obviously he's a part of.
Okay, so Rigo is saying something about this person was an employee and Diddy had her have sex. Ooh, and she was an employee. You know what? Let me go back to the beginning because now I'm already like, what in the world is going
Well,
on
start
here?
at number 18. They'll give you the alleged factual allegations.
Number 18.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so in 2003, Ms. Doe was a 17-year-old 11th grader residing in a suburb of Detroit, Michigan. What the heck? 17-year-old 11th grader. Okay. At the time, Mr. Combs was 34, twice the age. Why is that even necessary? Like, we can't do our own calculation. Like, this is the stuff when I'm reading these complaints. I'm like, these complaints were written for social media in mind. They were not written for. What does that have to do with anything?
It just makes it look worse against them.
And Tam says, wasn't that his first company and it happened there, Daddy House? We gonna find out. Leslie, what did you say? At the time, okay, and one of the most well-known and influential music artists of all time. That's a lot of fluff. A decade earlier, Mr. Combs founded Bad Boy and installed his longtime friend, Mr. Pierre, into the role of president. That's always interesting wording. Installed. You see how they're tying the activities directly to Diddy as you go through. At the time, Mr. Combs had many connections to Michigan. Interesting, tying him to the state where she was a resident, including, among others, to the Black Mafia family, a drug trafficking and money laundering organization that is rumored to have seeded Bad Boy. Rumored. How is this factual allegations when these are rumors? That's very interesting.
That has nothing to do with her allegations, but whatsoever. It's just some stuff that they thrown in there to make it look extra, extra bad or something.
Accordingly, upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' associates, including Mr. Pierre and the third assailant, spent significant time in and around Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
They're laying down.
Okay. So you go. That's not criminal or anything wrong with that per se. But keep going. Yeah.
Girl, this is made for TV right here. On one evening, what evening? Between the spring and fall of 2003. When was this? Miss Doe was out with friends. It was not uncommon for her and her friends to frequent bars and lounges. Oh, I'm sorry. So they're going to bars and lounges in the Detroit area at age 17.
No judgment.
I'm sorry. Where your parents at? All right. Certain of Miss Doe's friends were well connected with people in the music industry. Again, choose your friends wisely. On the evening in question, Miss Doe was with friends in a lounge when she was approached by who she later learned was Mr. Pierre. Mr. Pierre was with his own friends, including the third assailant. Mr. Pierre, the third assailant, and the friends were dressed in suits.
Oh, that's relevant to something, but what?
Mr. Pierre repeatedly complimented Miss Doe's appearance, saying that she was hot, among other things. He then began talking about his self-described best friend and brother, Mr. Combs. Specifically, Mr. Pierre continually stated that Mr. Combs would love to meet Miss Doe. This already sounds like some straight up foolishness. Like, I'm not going to say that what the person alleged didn't happen, but the way that they're writing this storyline in a darn complaint. Look at this.
Can you imagine? You fit Mr. My managers, you fit his profile. You look just like his type that he would be very, very highly interested in right there.
Tam says they're painting a picture, and I'm like, not only are they painting the picture, they went to Dollar Tree, got one of them canvas things, and got them little paints, got some paint brushes, and they actually mixing colors. They got a little palette, and they are going to town because you already know, hey, you got to get into it. You got to get into it. So you already know what it's about. You already know. All right, Rigo said, send up, you know who. I don't even understand why they're saying half of the stuff that's here, because I'm like, get to the points, please. So Mr. Pierre even called Mr. Combs and put Miss Doe on the line. Mr. Combs told Miss Doe that he would love to meet her and that she should accompany Mr. Pierre.
Use your imagination, Sandy. What happened in that conversation? Hey, you little 17-year-old young thing. I mean, what do you talk about?
Girl, stop playing with me right now. Now, this is one of the, I'm going to pause for a second because there have been a lot of debates on social media. And some of the debates are like, oh, where's this person's parents at? Some of the same debates that went on with like the R. Kelly stuff, right? Where are their parents? Why are you 17 in a club lounge, blah, blah? Why are you 17 around adults? Why are you this? Why are you that? Great questions in theory. Great questions that a defense attorney is in theory, right? Great questions in theory. A defense attorney is going to chop this young lady up on the stand because guess what? Those are important questions. But the
Weren't
other
you
problem,
raised in church, young lady? Where's your home training?
But the other problem is, as an adult 34-year-old, is there no distinguishing if these persons are of age, right? Because we know growing up, Lisa, there was a lot of folks doing this. I'm dating these older guys. I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 18. I'm with these 20, 30.
Those were the cool chicks. Those were the cool chicks. Like they were hopping in cars at 16, 17.
Right.
And we were sitting on a porch with our mouths open like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And those were the hot chicks in the neighborhood.
You know, there were a lot of instances, of course, with older men looking for younger girls and vice versa, right? But where's the defining line, right? Because, you know, we've heard stories of young girls who told somebody they were of age, and the person later comes to find out through some other event that the person is underage, right? How much blame do you place on one side or the other? And now we're not excusing SA, we're not excusing Grape. We're just talking about, generally speaking, interactions between older men, younger women, and we may even be able to do a vice versa.
And when you find out, do you back down as, you know, the right thing to do? Like, you know what? I thought you were this. You presented as this. I'm going to go ahead and terminate this right now. End of story. Goodbye. Or do you continue crossing that line with full knowledge? See, when allegedly in this situation, when Diddy got on the phone, he knew who he was dealing with, I'm assuming. Do you think?
I don't think, how does he have a way to know unless they're saying to him, hey, we found some young things and we got one for you or something. Like if they're recruiters, you know, I remember in the R. Kelly storyline, there were individuals that would bring the girls, right? So if they're recruiters, then I mean,
they know his profile.
If they know his profile,
they know what he like.
I don't know. Tam says, I would have ran. Some man talked to me like that. I mean, I would, first of all, I wouldn't have been there because my mama didn't let me go nowhere at 17 or 16 or damn near 18, 19.
But what if you're some young girl trying to break into the music industry, which is how a lot of these young folks, like guys and girls, are lulled in the first place because they want to get in the industry, and they're going, if you have a chance to be around the person who's at the top of the game that can just pull you straight to the top, and you know what I mean? I think that's the allure.
Well, Tam says, yes, he knew who he was dealing with. And maybe that's exactly what the situation is. He had a profile and he was bringing these young girls in. And, you know, I'm going to put my defense attorney hat on the reverse and say, you in a lounge, you hanging with adults. I think you an adult. I like you. I'm talking to you. You didn't say nothing to me. I'm thinking you this. So we ready to go, right? So I think these are going to be the challenging things that if a case like this goes forward, there's going to be some question marks about this whole 17-year-old teenager versus person in a lounge where other older people are,
Right.
that there may be an assumption that you are of age because you may be drinking and doing things that someone of age would be doing. So
Right.
these are the defining lines between the
Yes.
defense attorney hat and the plaintiff's hat, right?
Yes.
Plaintiff's
True.
attorney is going to eat it up with all the sap stories, but the defense attorney is going to start chipping away at all these little pieces that many of us might think of and say, that's not a big deal because Diddy should have known better. But
you know what? We're getting sidetracked a little bit because age ain't nothing but a number.
Girl,
and
you're not gonna tell me the Aaliyah
and it
line.
really has, right? And it really has nothing to do with sexual assault.
Well, it doesn't, because I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm not saying that that's an excuse for those things. I'm just saying when you're including this foolishness in your complaint, what does that foolishness have to do with what actually happened, right? Yeah. We're chipping away at all of that, because if you're saying I targeted you, or I was trying to groom you, or I was trying to do this stuff, I may say you were in my space. You were in my territory. You were amongst people that were supposed to be of a certain caliber and age. And if you weren't, I didn't know that at the time. That's what a defense is going to likely allege. Yeah. Rigo says, when Diddy buys her all these lavish gifts, but yes, the parents should have known where their 17-year-old girl, and when they become missing, that's a problem. People, Diddy know what he was getting into, but the teenager didn't. I mean, y'all
leave
New York to go somewhere.
You can't assume that. You can't assume that she come from a 2-parent home, that she lived in the suburbs and had a dog and a cat and a rabbit and went to great schools, and her parents should have known she was out past 11. I mean, where are we basing this reality on in terms of how everybody grew up?
I mean, but again, this is what creates the conflicts between when people find themselves in certain situations. Are those going to be factors that are going to call into question what ultimately may or may not have happened? Because again, these are allegations.
Yeah,
we can allege all day, but until we actually present something and prevent some corroborating factors and some evidence, if this settles, we're back at square one again.
Yeah, for all I know, she could have been living in the streets. I don't know her background. You know what I mean? She could have been like out there. We don't know.
Tam says we are assuming she doesn't know what's up, and that's all we can do. Yeah. We can only assume she doesn't know what's up. Now, if she does, that would be something that will come out in this case, because if I'm a defense attorney, I'm digging all up her story, and I'm trying to find out, was she always circulating amongst adults? Was she with other men at any periods of time during the same window of time? Were there other issues going on that would have created a reason why somebody would think she was of age?
And
right?
You know what?
But that doesn't excuse
any kind of criminal activity. Story up. Having been a former prosecutor, I would have taken that type of argument that you just made, and I would have torn it to shreds, because none of that matters when it comes to sexual assault. What she was wearing, how she carries herself socially, none of that matters. Nobody has the right to violate her, period.
But that's the issue we're having, is a determination of whether she was violated, because just because you made the allegation doesn't stamp it on the seal, right? There has to be some presentation of a case. And if you don't present a case, we're still left where? Rumors and allegations. We have nothing. Right?
Well, she's saying what happened to her. So in terms of the allegations, and when she goes under oath and say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, and she commences to speak thereafter, every word that she speaks turns into evidence, right?
Correct. And
Sworn
that evidence,
testimony becomes evidence, and that evidence can be enough alone to convict him or to make him liable with nothing more.
It can, but you just said something important, right? When she hits the stand. If she never hits the stand, if these allegations lay as they are and this is settled out, there's no result there. So we can't say her allegations were proven in a court of law, right?
True.
If she testifies,
if she settles, no, you can't.
If she testifies, we take what she says as the truth. However, a defense attorney is going to chop up her truth and skim away at that to determine whether or not she's a liar whether or not she's lied about other situations, whether or not there's been some history of certain things that have happened to this person that would call her ability to tell the truth into question, right? So a lot of things may happen if and when this case hits the trial. Now, if she testifies, I'm taking her word. That's what I'm taking, right? And then I have to decide on whether I believe what Diddy will have to say and what his witnesses are. So it's her witnesses and her word and his witnesses and his word. And we're weighing those, and a jury is looking at both and saying, I don't think that happened. I think that happened, right? So
wait. And jurors will be told you're not supposed to consider news that you heard out there against this person, evidence of other settlements and other cases. That's not supposed to influence you in looking at this case. But how many people are going to be keeping some of that stuff in the back of their mind, like, he's already settled on one of these type of cases, and you think people are not going to realize there's been 4 more other lawsuits, and that would affect them in terms of bias and prejudice, possibly for or against him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but these are the issues that we have when you present a case to the court of law. And, you know, when we talk about the fairness of this court process and whether or not people are able to get a fair shake, you know, we have to be careful about how we handle these celebrity cases, because these behaviors carry over into the regular cases, right? Because I should be able to face allegations. I should be able to make allegations in a court and get a chance to argue my case. But because we're drafting a complaint like this and creating things that are for the court of public opinion, I don't feel like anybody would get a fair shake. I'm settling cases. If I'm in a lot of these situations, I'm like, forget that crap. I'm settling.
I just don't
give you a little chump change to be done.
Who wants to turn their life into a soap opera by having someone testify to all these like gory, eerie details about he knew I was 17 and
not doing that.
And he told me I fit his profile or whatever the allegations might be. But this is weird. If you look at that part where you just read that they called the Diddy on the phone, Mr. Combs on the phone, and then Mr. Pierre, who was running, is it Bad Boy Records? If I'm not mistaken.
Let's see where Mr. Pierre came from. What I forgot what they said. Mr. Pierre was.
He was installed as
president of one of the companies. Bad Boy, yeah, president of Bad Boy, Mr. Pierre.
All right, so now look at paragraph.
I think we're on 26.
6 and 7. Look at paragraph 27 in particular, where you have the president of Bad Boy Records allegedly telling the young girl to go into the bathroom with me to smoke crack from an aluminum can.
I'm done, child.
This is the president.
So after he finished doing that, he took out his thing and demanded that she sucked his thing and forced her head down to perform oral on him. All right. After assaulting her, Mr. Pierre directed her to accompany him, the third assailant, and a third member of their group to an airport in Pontiac, Michigan. Good old Pontiac, Michigan. I lived right near Pontiac. Wow. I lived in Auburn Hills and I lived in Rochester.
I bet you didn't know it was what it was known for back then, huh?
Girl, don't get me started. Don't get me to playing. Don't get the Benjamins playing. Don't get the Benjamins. They were in Michigan. What you want to do? All right. After sexually assaulting Miss Doe, Mr. Pierre directed her to accompany him. They went to the airport in Pontiac, and they took a private jet with the 4 of them to New York. So that means
was she handcuffed? Was she handcuffed at this time? Was she gagged and bound? Did they have her concealed in a plastic bag?
27 says he directed her to go with him. That's what it says.
But look, directed. That's as good as like with a gun to your head, right?
Where her? I'm scrolling back. Where her friends at?
She left them. She went into the bathroom to do crack and play with things.
Let me get off this thing real quick. People, we need to have some some separation from certain things. And I learned this long ago in my early years. When you go out with your friends, you need to go out with your friends. And you need to be mindful of who your friends are. This is just a conversation aside from the SA and the grape and all that stuff. We need to have a thing of helping our young women know that you need to travel in packs. Because you know what's interesting in this situation? The men travel in packs. They travel in packs and they do stuff in packs and they get the girls alone. And this is an old story because this has happened many, many times. It's not a new thing. I've seen it. I've been out when I was a young person. I used to go out and do certain things and see people. But one thing I always remembered that was key for me, there was no separation from the group. And if you separating from a group, that's not a group you need to be going out with. Because this is danger zone right here. And you know, she's alleging this happened to her. If this happened to her, these folks are going down, because this is, you got 3 men and what appears to be a young girl. I mean, she said she was 17. I don't know what she looked like then. I don't know what they look like then. I don't know, I don't know anything. But I know that if I'm with 3 men, I got a problem, because I'm already going to feel that intimidation and things like that. And that's a very scary thing.
But she went on her own. I surmise that she got on that plane in Pontiac on her own. She
got on the plane after the activities in the bathroom, right?
She 17, 16, 19, and 21. She knew what she was doing at that point. She knew she wanted to meet Mr. Combs, period.
By any means necessary, it seems, because this is wild right here. This is definitely a Lifetime movie network. This is not a Lifetime film right here. This is a Lifetime movie network film right here. So upon information and belief, interesting, the private jet landed. I'm on 30. The private jet landed at Teterboro Airport. Upon departing the jet, 2 black SUVs were waiting for the group. Miss Doe got into an SUV with Mr. Pierre, and the third assailant and the other member of the group went in the second SUV. So she's in an SUV right now with Mr. Pierre and the third assailant.
The one that already has assaulted her.
Yes. Then the SUVs brought the group to Diddy's house recording studio, a recording studio and hangout owned and operated by Mr. Combs and Bad Boy. So I'm curious to know whether or not it was owned by Combs as an individual, or if it was owned by Combs through his ownership of Bad Boy. That would be real interesting to know.
Looks like both.
When Miss Doe arrived, she was escorted into the building, where she distinctly remembers seeing a sign for the company Technicolor. Always interesting. Upon entering the studio, Miss Doe first encountered Mr. Combs. At the time she arrived, a female recording artist was using the studio as Mr. Combs and her parents watched on. She finished up shortly after Miss Doe arrived and left.
Now that would have left a pretty decent impression. Like, okay, like maybe he is really a decent guy. Like, this young lady is here singing with her mom here, so this is like a good sign that I'm going to be safe and everything.
Not after I was just assaulted in a bathroom. I'm alleging I was assaulted in a bathroom, and then I go on to the private jet and go on to the next stop in another freaking state. This is a scary thought, that someone would go through these lengths after already being, according to her, victimized, right? This is a very scary thing.
Again, she went through hell to meet Mr. Combs because that was her ultimate goal. So she's endured abuse because she had a greater goal, and that is to get to the source who could probably help her with her career. I'm assuming that's what this is all about.
I missed Tam's message. He said, "Oh my, his thing." I couldn't bring my stomach to say the extra stuff right now. We can read it, but I'm not gonna mess with it. Let me see something Rigo said I missed here. Rigo said that's why 5 to 15 rules should have applied by the parent single or having both parents whoop that ass if they break the house rules until they do 2 things, which they get a job or move out, put the child in the military, and they will correct that child and turn them into a hopeful wiser person. Because when they have kids, the same cycle will happen. Look, Rigo over there whooping
Yes, sir, sir.
ASSs and doing all kinds of stuff. Come on, Rigo, you done got the military treatment going.
That's right. I will
Rigo,
not go in bathrooms unattended.
Tam said, "Oh my, his thing." That was funny, Tam. Tam also says this story has been told countless times. Like I can't think of how many times I've heard this type of story, and it's
like
kind of sad because it's like as you're reading the story, you're thinking to yourself, "What the hell? Like, why would you? Why would you? Why would you?" But again, being in the moment and thinking after the fact, two completely different things, right? Rigo mentioned something about that's a groupie gone bad. I mean, it could be. Again, this is allegations made by one person, and the defense is going to chop up the allegations. Maybe the defense will determine this is a groupie gone bad, but maybe the plaintiff,
an innocent girl who, you know what I mean, who basically, okay, she wasn't asking to be abused, okay? Something was presented to her bad, and she made a bad decision in the moment. That's what happened. That's the way I look at it.
The problem, Lisa, is not everybody looks at it that way. I mean, in reading it, my personal thought is possibly somebody looking to get connected and is willing to do whatever. What? And the unfortunate part about that is it brings about questions of consent. It brings about questions of age. It brings about questions of whether or not, knowledge, of course, is not an excuse. We know that in a lot of these types of cases, right?
But she's a minor. I mean, hey, she is a minor at the end of the day. So, like, even though she might have known what she was doing, I mean, she doesn't have the maturity of a 25 or 30-year-old or 40-year-old. So she doesn't have that. And some of these folks, they're used to taking advantage of people who don't have any experience whatsoever.
Well, Tam is saying exactly what I was just thinking. It was bad judgment. It really was. And I'm not saying that excuses the behaviors because, of course, just because you make a bad judgment doesn't give somebody an opportunity to have a free ride on you. But at the same token, it doesn't completely make it seem as though somebody just came about and graped you or SA'd you. Like, it doesn't make me feel like they just did this and she had no
that's exactly what happened. Wait, it doesn't excuse anything that happened just because she was there. Even if she willingly participated, still she was thrust into the situation. Could she have left and not traveled to New York? Yes, she could have. She made some decisions. I agree with you guys. She made some bad decisions.
However, I think it was bad judgment that went wrong. And unfortunately, that bad judgment went wrong with people that would be all too willing to take advantage. Now, the question now is going to come down to whether these things happened. And of course, there's going to have to be some questioning to test the veracity of her answers. The jury's going to believe what they want to believe, no matter what's said. Okay. So, I'm not going to question this young lady and say, oh, there's no way it happened to her, but I am going to question whether it happened to her. Like as all of these cases come out, I'm sorry, I'm really getting into the point of, are these real or is this what just is going to be? Like, this is how we're going to go through these processes, because my fear is, again, and I've said this in one of the last ones that we did, if someone were to accuse my brother or my uncle or my stepdad or my dad, like if someone were to accuse a man in my life of these types of things, would I want the court of public opinion to be the all deciding factor? Heck no. Not based on what I'm seeing, because a lot of decision making is being made right now that is basically tarnishing people. So you're guilty, even though this is a civil case and there is no guilty. You're guilty before you even have a chance to open your mouth. And that to me is a very bad thing to set in stone as we continue to see these types of cases come forward, because it diminishes to me the allegations that are being presented. It makes it seem like, well, doesn't matter what the allegations are. This person is wrong and that's it. And there's nothing to be proven. And that's just not, to me, that doesn't make a proper system. Rigo says Diddy has all his business licenses are under the mother name. And again, she may have been drugged, and that's state by state human trafficking. I mean, it very well may be, the fact that they did take her onto a plane and moved her from her location somewhere else. And she was directed, right? It wasn't like she said, hey, I want to go with you guys. But then again, we don't know. Maybe someone will come out and be like, the waitress saw her and she was like, hey guys, can I go with you? We don't know, right? We don't know what's going to come out. Rico says, hey, that's a veteran talking. A veteran. Yes, indeed. Knows what she's talking about. Okay, let me get this straight. She is a minor and a 30-year-old guy is taking advantage in that. Oh, he said statutory R by an adult on a child. I mean, I don't know in the state of New York, I don't know what that is considered. And we are well outside of the window of that kind of conversation because right now they're filing under a New York law that has to do with folks who had something happen to them years ago having the opportunity to bring these cases. Tam says, I go back to my 17-year-old self and no way could I imagine. Neither could I. At 17, first of all, my mama would have killed me. Second of all, my mama would have killed me. And third of all, my mama would have killed me. So I would have been too scared to even think. But again, I'm not this person, so I don't know. Lisa's way into this allegation. So let me go here. On 35. So while still in the studio section of Daddy's house, Mr. Combs asked Miss Doe to sit on his lap to take a picture. A copy of the photograph is below. Now, we don't see her face, so we don't see facial expression. I don't know if she's smiling. I don't know if she's happy. I don't know if she did anything else after this. I don't know. But we have a photo. I know I got a photo with some of the members of Drew Hill not long ago, years ago, when I was a youngin'. And
Did it look like
there,
that?
I'm standing. Let me put myself on the screen. I'm standing there with them like this.
But
and Drew Hill is standing, and I got my little ball cap on, and I'm standing next to. I think I was standing next to Cisco. And I put my little peace sign up, and I think he was signing either a poster or something. I'm sure I still have that picture. And I think I got a picture with Baby Sham, one of the Jamaican artists recently. We were all hugged up. So I'm hoping that don't come back.
Wait, was that the one where you had the Daisy Dukes on and you were sitting on his lap?
Not even close.
Not that one.
And I got a picture with Wyclef not long ago. I got a picture with, who's the other artist I got a picture with? I can't remember the name, but I have a few pictures of artists. I've kept them. So I know some folks are going to bring up this concept of, oh, why she keep these pictures? Because we keep pictures of people that we meet.
So what? The pictures, there's nothing wrong with the picture. If she wanted to sit on his lap and pose and take a picture, so be it. I don't.
But that's not what she's saying. She said he asked her to sit on his lap to take a picture. And then it says Mr. Combs, Mr. Pierre, and the third assailant began to ply Miss Doe, a 17-year-old child at the time, with copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. They good. They writing this real good. I like how they keep putting the 17-year-old in there. They piling it up real good. I would love to see a response to this. While the evening became a blur, Miss Doe does recall how the evening became a blur, but then you recall. It's a blur, but you recall, right? This is going to be the interesting part. While the evening became a blur, Miss Doe does recall Mr. Combs, Mr. Pierre, and the third assailant hitting on her incessantly, stroking her body, asking to see her ASS, and telling her how hot and sexy she was. Okay, interesting. I don't see anything that's a crime here except for the stroking. I think that is that the only thing that would be a crime here? Oh, wait a minute. We're not in crime zone. I forgot. Civil. Civil means money, liability. No crime.
Means money, but by all accounts, this easily could be a crime.
Yeah, if we were in criminal court. Okay, so various other pictures were taken in the studio that night, leaving no doubt that Ms. Doe was in Mr. Combs' New York City studio with Mr. Combs on the night she was great. That don't really mean nothing, but I mean, if we can see something more than this, I mean, when she tells the story on the stand, that will help. As the night wore on, the 17-year-old, I hate when they keep repeating this because I'm just like, y'all need to stop it. 17-year-old Ms. Doe became more and more inebriated, eventually to the point that she could not possibly have consented to having sex with anyone, much less someone twice her age. Oh, I love this. I love this storyline. Nevertheless, that evening, Mr. Combs directed Ms. Doe to accompany him to the bathroom at the studio. Once there, Mr. Combs removed Ms. Doe's skirt and underwear and penetrated her from behind with his pee while she hung over the sink. Now, I'm looking at the outfit that she's wearing. I don't really see why he needed to take anything off because she's wearing like a, It's like one of those little jean skirts.
Sandy, you must stop that. You must stop that. You sound like someone who victimizes victims. You can't do that.
Nah, Lisa, please don't characterize it that way, because here's what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about what she's wearing. I'm saying the description is that he took off her skirt and her underwear. But I don't see what would be the reason. She's wearing something short. I could see if you say you took off the underwear. That's what I could see. I'm not discounting. She could wear whatever she wants. She could be naked.
Maybe he wanted to film what, I mean, this is Diddy. Maybe he wanted, allegedly, maybe he wanted to film this. And maybe the clothing items got in the way of whatever his FO was.
Look, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. And all I can say is, allegedly, Miss Doe did not consent to having sex with Mr. Combs, but he continued thrusting. At some point, Mr. Combs turned Miss Doe around to face him. He told her that he could not orgasm and asked her to squeeze his nipples as hard as she could to help him get off. He then turned her back around and continued to grape her. All right. By this point, allegedly, Ms. Doe was coming in and out of consciousness because of the drugs and alcohol she had been given by defendants. Her next memory was looking up into the mirror above the sink to find that the third assailant had replaced Mr. Combs and was graping her from behind. Mr. Combs was watching the third assailant sexually assault Ms. Doe from a chair outside of the bathroom. This is some deviant foolishness.
Allegedly, Mr. Combs continued to watch while others continue to sexually assault her.
Tam says the court will decide, but I don't think he's going to court. He will settle. I mean, to me, there's no point in going to court on any of this nonsense, because here's the thing. This is not going to be a fair trial no matter what. She's not going to get a fair trial. He's not going to get a fair trial. She's probably going to win. That's what I see. None of these cases are going to go to a point where each side is going to get a fair cut of the information, because this case is already being tried by us right now. And you think a potential juror is not going to see half of the videos that people are like, this is not going to be a fair trial no matter what. She was drugged and they did their way with her. I mean, it's possible, allegedly. All right.
Yeah, she has one. Okay, keep going.
Let me see. Tam says he's going to settle. The man allegedly has an MO. Yep, he does. Allegedly, he has a MO, and he's allegedly been involved in all kinds of things. The interesting part is I'm still waiting for one of these cases. Like, I am so itching for one of these cases to find him what it needs to be so that the allegations can stop being allegations. But I don't think it's going to happen. Like, he hasn't responded to the Dickinson lawsuit. I haven't seen anything posted about a response yet. I think he has 30 days or something, or either 20 or 30 days. But I don't really see that going to court either. It might go to a response, but I don't see it going to court.
One thing that's undeniable in this particular lawsuit, based on the photographs, he cannot deny that he was not in the same space with her. That's strong. That's very strong evidence that goes against him. He was there. She was there in that space. And if there's a time and date stamp on that photograph, then it can be pinpointed exactly what time she was hanging out with him in that studio. And maybe there's camera security as to who was coming in and out. So I'm just saying there are ways to possibly figure that out still.
Yeah, I definitely think, first of all, those pictures are going to have to be authenticated. There's going to have to be a determination of when those pictures were taken. There's going to have to be some confirmation. There was a pilot, so somebody flew them there. There should be some evidence and some paperwork showing there was a flight. There should be some folks that were at the restaurant that may have seen, or the lounge that may have seen. There should be a waiter or a waitress or somebody at the studio. The parents of that girl and the girl that were in the studio recording whatever would have seen. So there's so many things that can corroborate this. And if that's not corroborated, then that chips away at her case. If it is corroborated, then that supports her case. So these are the things that are going to really, really matter if, in fact, these allegations are proven, right? So at this point, Ms. Doe mustered the energy to tell the third assailant to stop and that she did not want to be having X with him. The third assailant did not stop, continued to grape her, and she did not have the strength to force him off. After the third assailant was finished, he was replaced by Mr. Pierre. So this is the original person that took her from the restaurant to take her to Diddy, who began by having non-consensual non-consensual vaginal sex with Miss Doe before violently forcing her to give him oral. During the latter part of the sexual assault, Mr. Pierre forced his pee into Miss Doe's mouth without her consent. Miss Doe remembers that Mr. Pierre was sweaty and that she had difficulty breathing. Now, there's something that I'm seeing as a common trend here, and that I know, because again, I'm gonna, Lisa, you have your plaintiff hat on. I sense it, and I'm sure people can tell I have a defense hat on, because I think that's a need. We have to have those two conversations. We can't both be on the same side. I sense a common theme of she's talking about things that are happening to her, and she remembers, but she doesn't remember, right? She comes to consciousness, then she doesn't have. She has drugs in her system, but then she becomes aware. She has Diddy first, and then she realizes someone else is there, right? So this is going to be an interesting place. If this were to actually go forward and we get a person on the stand, I could see a defense attorney going through this storyline and saying, okay, so you say you remember this, but you don't remember this, and really chipping away at, is this really your memory, or is this something that you're creating to add on, right? Because a lot of times in these storylines, I remember in the Amber Heard case, there was a back and forth about something that happened. And then there was some video produced, and Amber had already testified. And then they showed the video, and the video was like, that's not quite what happened. So I'm curious to know if, when she says she got to the studio, whether the two parents and the girls saw her, right? And then I'm curious to know if there were other people in the studio, because she doesn't mention any other people. I'm very curious to know if there was other traffic going on in the studio, if Diddy and these assailants were the only one, or were there other witnesses that were present? Because that's going to be an interesting part of this story. So when
that would be interesting. It would be interesting to see who else might be there. I was thinking, like, did she ever, even though age is not a real factor under the sexual assault allegation, I just was wondering, did she ever mention to him that she was only 17 years of age? Did she?
In her story, I don't see it yet, but they keep saying she's 17 throughout this, so
it doesn't sound like I didn't read anywhere where she put anyone on notice that, like I said, it's not a factor, but she,
right.
since, like you said, she mentions it so much, my next question is, did she put somebody on notice about it, that she was a minor?
That's gonna be interesting. Rico says they drug her, and all three did wrong to this girl, and Sicko was watching. No matter what they say, Diddy and the other two amigos should go to jail. Well, Rico, again, there's no jail here. There's no jail. They should, if they in fact did something, and they could have brought criminal charges at the time. But we're wet. I think, Lisa, we're well outside of this window. We're talking 2003. It's 2023.
Yeah, and the thing is there's only one count to this lawsuit. There's only one claim that she made, and it was under that New York statute. The first and only cause of action is violation of the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Law, New York City Administrative Code. It's not even a state statute. It's a New York City code that she filed under. So that's a very narrow window under which she was able to file this civil lawsuit. And had it not been for this, she would be forever barred, probably out of time because of a statute of limitations, I would think.
Rigo says someone needs to look for camera footage of who goes in and out of that studio. I'm going to be honest with you. If that studio still exists, that footage gone. That footage gone, unless somebody secured it already. That footage is gone. I would be very surprised to see any footage available, but let us continue. We're almost.
So this is gender-based violence, gender-based violence type of code. So saying it's because she was female, they committed a gender-based offense, crime of violence against her. And it's very interesting because the statute talks about a crime of violence has been committed against you because of your gender. Right. But key term, they're referring to a crime. A crime had to be committed against you in order for you to be able to file under this civil code. Very interesting, which means that the people who cannot go and file criminally, this is another opportunity for them to get at their assailants.
So I imagine that there's language in this particular code that speaks to a criminal offense and allows them to file this under a civil positioning because they could not file it criminally. That's what that sounds like. All right.
Yeah.
Well, when Mr. Pierre finished, he left Ms. Doe in the bathroom alone. She fell into a fetal position and lay on the floor. Her vagina was in pain. Finally, after a period of time, Ms. Doe regained her bearings. However, she could barely stand up following the gang grape and had to be helped to walk out of the building and back into a car. She was taken back to an airport and flown back to Michigan. However, she has very limited recollection of her transport home and only remembers being in her car sometime early in the morning. Her underwear was missing. As a result of being graped by Mr. Combs, Mr. Pierre, and the third assailant, Ms. Doe suffered significant emotional distress and feels of shame, I guess feelings of shame, that have plagued her life and personal relationships for 20 years. Okay. Ms. Doe knew that speaking out against defendants would be extremely difficult and that she would likely be subjected to retaliation and defamatory slurs and attacks. However, in November 2023, this is where my thoughts of this complaint go downhill. Ms. Doe read about a lawsuit filed against Mr. Combs by Cassie Ventura, aka Cassie. Ms. Ventura's suit described a decade of physical, sexual, and mental abuse. Most triggering for Ms. Doe was reading about Ms. Ventura's allegations of sex trafficking and being forced to have sex with other men against her will. Ms. Doe obviously understands that she too had been sex trafficked and that Mr. Combs' behavior in forcing women into non-consensual sex was not an isolated incident or unique only to Ms. Ventura. Then, just days later, Ms. Doe read about a case filed against Mr. Pierre. The suit alleged that Mr. Pierre used his position of power at Bad Boy to groom and sexually assault his former assistant. Seeing two other women bravely speak out against Mr. Combs and Mr. Pierre, respectively, gave Ms. Doe the confidence to tell her story as well. As such, she files this suit. Yeah, all right. First cause of action is the violation that you mentioned of the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law. Plaintiff, let's see, the above described conduct of defendant Mr. Combs, including but not limited to Mr. Combs' essay of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence against plaintiff and is a crime of violence motivated by gender as defined under this New York law, okay? And crime of violence means an act or series of acts that would constitute a misdemeanor or felony against the person as defined in state or federal law, or that would constitute a misdemeanor or felony against property as defined in state or federal law if the conduct presents a serious risk of physical injury to another, whether or not those acts have actually resulted in criminal charges, prosecution, or conviction. So basically, these things could not have been presented criminally right now, right?
For whatever reason.
Way outside of whatever time frame, right?
Yeah.
Because they weren't able to, there was this act that was brought into place, right? This law that was put into place to allow victims of these types of crimes that could not bring those crimes criminally to actually get some justification, I guess, in this type of setting, right? In a civil setting for crimes, right?
For crime.
Now, the thing is, these are not crimes that had to be proven, so that you didn't have to have charges, you didn't have to have a prosecution, and you didn't even have to have a conviction. So nothing had to have actually come from your allegations, but you had to have something alleged that would have been considered a crime. Okay.
Right. And let me point out something real quick. So, and the crimes in this case occurred in the jurisdiction of New York City. Had these same acts occurred in Detroit or Pontiac, Michigan, could have been a totally different result, and she may have been forever barred from bringing a criminal action or maybe a civil action, depending on the statute of limitations in those jurisdictions.
Yeah, and you never know. I don't know what the laws are in Michigan. Maybe they have some laws that are similar to this, or maybe they'll come up with some. But nothing happened to her in Michigan per se, aside from what we talked about with Mr. Pierre. So if there was something that was going to be filed with the Michigan situation, it would probably only be against Mr. Pierre and probably Bad Boy if they wanted to bring Bad Boy in, because Combs wasn't there and he wasn't involved in that. Even, the phone call, I mean, you can try to say some things about the phone call, but
That's
you know,
not.
he
I
wasn't
don't
there.
know that by itself will be strong enough for anything civil or criminal.
All right. So this section that talks about the actual cause of action, which is what they're suing under, right? The basis of their lawsuit. And so it breaks down what crime of violence is and what the different codes are under New York law, specifically under New York City criminal law, right? So
Oh wait, go back to that last paragraph where it talks. Oh, there you go. You see, go back, go right there at the end of 54, I believe, where it defines where it says the term at the very end, the term crime of violence motivated by gender means a crime of violence committed because of gender or on the basis of gender and due at least in part to an animus based on the victim's gender. So in other
going to be an
words,
interesting one. Like, how do you prove, like, I got to pause on that for a second. How do you prove that somebody committed a crime based on someone's gender? Like, how do you determine that somebody committed a crime because you're a female or a male? That's a little strange to me.
well, again, if you show that some person has a propensity to commit violent crimes against a certain gender, then you can probably show it that way. That might have to be based on some type of pattern of conduct over time that
Right.
they have tended to violate females and the perpetrator is a male.
Okay.
It might be
Interesting.
something like that. I don't know what they'll have to show in court on this, but they're going to have to be able to meet some obligation in that regard, right?
There's going to have to be something, because if you're defining it, you're going to have to satisfy the terms of that definition, and present evidence that satisfies that. So that's going to be an interesting part. This whole basis of gender piece. So they keep talking about basis of gender. Let me see. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings Inc. enabled defendant's commission of the crime of violence motivated by gender and is therefore also liable under this particular law. That's going to be a tricky one for me here, because unless you're saying, and this is just me kind of pulling at a straw here, unless you're saying that these people were in the commission of their role, I don't know how you tie the holdings company, because I could see if this person was a musical artist. So if it's determined that she was trying to get some kind of music deal, or she was auditioning, or she was, I mean, I don't know under what terms
Well,
she.
I mean, maybe it was Bad Boy that rented the plane to get her from Michigan to New York, or maybe it
Okay.
was Bad Boy that rented the ride from the airport to the studio or back from the studio to the airport.
Okay.
So somehow, those companies played a role in that whole process of what happened with her.
So she says, as a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned crime of violence and gender motivated violence, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling her to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney's fees and costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate, damages as set forth in this particular law. So there's different damages that you can get. Remember, when you file a lawsuit, you're filing a lawsuit based on a specific cause of action. There's a certain thing that you are filing. If it's a contract, or if it's a breach of contract, if it's an attack, if it's a SA, if it's a grape, if it, you have a reason or a basis, which is your cause of action. And under that cause of action, there's certain types of damages that you can ask for based upon what injury you feel that you sustain. And the injury that you sustain could be monetary, it could be physical, it could be pain and suffering, it could be lost wages. It could be so many different things. And so she's asking for the whole kitchen sink, compensatory
and punitive. She wants
punitive,
punitive
injunctive.
damages. Punitive maybe 3 times compensatories. So she said she had lost wages. Maybe she had maybe she had to go get
costs,
and she had to go to therapy. She had to be in counseling, deal with all of those kind of things. So yeah, then she's going to have probably ask for 3 times all of her compensatories for punitives.
Yep. All right. So the above described conduct of defendants constitutes a sexual offense as defined under that New York penal law. This cause of action is timely because it is commenced within 2 years and 6 months after September 1st. So it seems like this particular law opened up on September 1st of 2022, and they gave them 2 years and 6 months to file their cases.
So basically by the end of 2024, it's over.
Yeah. 2 years. Oh, 2 years and 6 months. Yeah. So
yeah.
All right. So her prayer for relief. This is not like a regular prayer, like Heavenly Father. You know, I'm not regular praying, but this is what you're requesting from the court. You're saying,
dear Lord,
to enter, dear Judge,
dear Judge,
I want you to enter judgment in my favor against all of the people that I've listed as defendants, and each of them as follows. So these are the things that I'm praying, dear Judge, that you allow. And remember, the decision maker is not going to be the judge per se. We're going to have a jury here, but the judge is going to enter the judgment based upon what the jury's verdict is, right? So for a money judgment,
hey.
You know, I had to come back here because this is what we're talking about. It's a civil suit, so he's not going to jail. We're talking about money.
Get paid.
All right, we're talking about money. We're talking about money. So sorry, guys, I had to take a little pause. We're talking about money, so we have to understand that money is going to be at the root of this conversation. And again, let's stop using the words money grab. I know that there are instances where people do that, right? We're not going to say that doesn't exist, but we can't just call every case a money grab, right? We have to allow some storyline to play out, let the case play out. And if it settles, then you can call it a money grab if you want to, because now it's just allegations. You do it.
Even cases that are money grabs, technically, we shouldn't be calling them money grabs.
For a money judgment representing compensatory damages, including consequential, lost wages, earning, other sums of money together with interest, according to proof. And then it says for a money judgment for mental pain and anguish, severe emotional distress, according to proof. For punitive or punishment type damages, right? And exemplary damages, according to proof. Again, our favorite thing, because Wigore LLP is the attorney here, and they're going to get their attorney's fees, right? And then she wants pre-judgment and post-judgment interest. And such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. So if the court sees that there's something else that needs to be addressed, that is just and proper to address the damages in this case, or the judgment in this case, that is the decision. So this was filed today, December 5th.
Fresh off the presses.
Lord, that was a long one. At least it wasn't Cassie's, because Cassie's lawsuit was long as I don't know what. That was a long lawsuit. So
yeah, that's wow. Okay, Miss Jane Doe. Jane Doe.
Guys, in resolve of this case, again, this is a complaint. A complaint has allegations. The objective is for those allegations to be presented in court. Even before that, the objective would be to get some discovery, which means each side is going to dig up their evidence. Each side is going to ask the other side to provide documentation to prove up their case. Sometimes in discovery, people see some things. The defense side is looking and they're like, ooh, I see we got this stuff. The plaintiff side is like, ooh, I see we got this stuff. Then they come to the table and they're like, we might want to try a mediation. Maybe we want to talk about this a little bit.
I think we would like to settle.
I think we would like to settle. Or if we don't go that route, we might just, I like to settle. And then it'll be like,
hey, I get paid and you don't.
So if if we go to court, we go through all the hoops and ladders, we still may find a settlement, because sometimes after they've discovered what really exists, because remember, this person is making their allegations. They're just allegations. We haven't seen what's on their hand, right? It's like we're playing cards, right? I don't see what Lisa's hand is. Lisa is the plaintiff attorney. I'm the defense attorney. I don't see what's in her hand.
She might have saved that blue jean skirt. You just don't know.
That's very possible, right? Because guess what? The nostalgia of meeting a Diddy and taking a picture, it's very possible.
It's just like meeting a Bill Clinton.
And if Diddy is what we think he is, he may still have him draws on a frame, right?
Well, I'm sure he's not going to produce those as evidence. Here's evidence number one against me.
That's like the recordings from that studio. Them suckers gone. But, you know, if there's anything to be found, I saw Rigo posted something. He said someone needs to look for cameras footage, who goes in and out of the studio. I mean, it's great in theory. I don't know if you're going to have that. It depends on if that studio still exists. And then he said, what about cameras in the streets around that building? If they have cams, you can, you know, if they do accident cams, there must be footage somewhere. I mean, let's consider this, Rigo. This was 20 years ago. I don't know how realistic that is. I really don't know how realistic that is, but it's very possible. Who knows? She may have had her own pictures and little stuff and evidence and, you know, I don't know, because some of her allegations are saying that she doesn't remember, but then other allegations saying she remembers. So we'll see. But the question is Diddy going to call her bluff and go forward on this case? I don't know. I doubt it. I think a lot of these cases are just going to settle, and then we're still going to be left with rumors and allegations, and that's what all it's going to be.
And then if somebody says, well, you know, she never said stop. She never said get off me. She never said don't. Well, you know, if you take away somebody's ability to say stop, then basically you impeded them from being able to do that. And that's where the drugs and alcohol comes in. Like, effectively, you know, she was basically saying she wasn't able to resist what was happening to her because she was highly, highly inebriated. So I just think if it goes to trial, I think it doesn't help the persons who are accused.
Let's see what Diddy has to say.
Did he say anything?
Diddy says, enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear.
Hey.
He said, I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Sean Diddy Combs /
Hey. And I say, get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Come on, Diddy, fight him, fight back. Go to court, Diddy.
So if Diddy is in fact saying what he's saying, maybe we might see another Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Trial, baby. Going to trial.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'd love to see a trial, especially if the trial has evidence on his side and evidence on her side where we can clash the forces and see if it's for real. Because if he's saying this, what do you have? That's what, because when I see a client respond like this, when your attorney has not responded on your behalf yet, and this was just posted, was this today? Yeah, this was today. Okay. This was posted today. Okay. So you haven't even you just got this, just was filed. You probably haven't even been served yet. But remember, this is in the court of public opinion already, right? He hasn't been served yet because this was filed today, unless they got the process server to go out today.
So what he knows, and he knows that it's her word against theirs. That's right. What he knows, and he knows that may or may not stand up in a court of law. A jury might find that her testimony is just not that credible. I wonder if they would hold the period of time from coming forward even against her. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's risky. I think it's risky.
Well, and those are the things that he might already realize. And he's like, you know, come on, let's go with it. because those things really aren't on her side. Those few things are not on her side.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting. Rigo says, "Hey, that should be the next music. Get up, stand up for." So that should be it should be an interesting thing to see, because what I don't like about when I see these cases come out is people automatically align themselves. And I'm going to be honest with you. My pushback is not to align with Diddy. My pushback is to align with process. I think if allegations are presented, they need to be proven.
True.
Right? I think if allegations are presented, the person who's responding to those allegations should have an opportunity to respond. And then looking at allegations, evidence, testimony, put it all together, mix it up, and now we can make a decision, right? That's what I feel like.
No, you put it all together, and that spells settle.
It only spells settle, though, Lisa, if you in fact have what you're presenting, because this complaint is not a complaint for court. This is a complaint for public opinion. This is a complaint for settlement. A complaint for court is going to be the details, evidence presented to corroborate those details, and we going forward. But this right here, this is a Lifetime Movie Network film. That's all this is.
She was up in that studio. She was up in that studio. Whether they say she was up there to provide services, and she had a calling card for those services, I don't know what they're going to say, but it's going to be very interesting to see if it does really play out in a court of law.
This one and the last one, the Dickinson Neal.
Yeah.
I would really be interested to see these go forward. I don't know if they're going to. It would really be great if they did, because I love to see process play out. Even though these are very sensitive issues, even though people unfortunately are going to align themselves, many people are going to align themselves with the alleged victim, and they're just automatically, they believe her. They don't care what she said in there. They believe her. Many people are going to align with the defendant because they feel like, oh, the defendant is always getting the raw deal because the plaintiff is always coming off as the winner. But many people are going to be like me and be like, I'm not aligning nowhere because I don't know y'all. I wasn't there. And I'm loving the idea of playing out court process and teaching people how this works and not allowing the court of public opinion to win. I hate the court of public opinion because when it's wrong, it's damaging lives. When it's right, it's also damaging lives because it creates a precedent of we're making decisions before an actual process gets to happen. And that's why these lawsuits are filed and then they're released into the public space. Instead of being filed, the person is served, and now we go through a court process. That's why it's like this. And that's unfortunate. I don't like that about it. And that's just my lawyer hat leaning on, I'm not plaintiff or defense. Let's get to the bottom of this. And if something happened, let's address it. And if something didn't happen, let's make sure we make that right too. Because just because someone was accused by someone else doesn't always just mean, oh, boom. And just because somebody accused them and it's based on something else doesn't mean that they're lying either, right? So I feel like we have to kind of give the balance. That's why there's scales of justice. It's not like, oh, one bucket of justice and there's like this is right and this is right. It's scales of justice, and we have to find it, even though justice doesn't really exist anyway. So Rigo says,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Look at what Rigo said and tell me your point. Sorry.
Rigo says, now if the Jane Doe surprise, it's like in drama show, dun, dun, dun here. Diddy, your
dun,
child.
Dun,
dun, dun, dun. But this is going to put a giant cloud around Diddy from now. Thank you, Rigoberto, for that. So the point I wanted to say kind of sounds like that in terms of his legacy, I heard already that one of the companies that he's the head of, that somebody in the group has asked him to step down as the head.
The Revolt thing, yeah.
The Revolt thing, because it's bringing a bad name, obviously, with these allegations alone. So they don't want that drama with their business, and so they asked him to step down as the head. So I just think things like that, they're just allegations right now, but they do have an impact, and they can affect even future business.
Allegedly, I think Macy's pulled out the Sean John clothing line, if I'm not mistaken. I was there was another YouTuber that was talking about that Macy's is no longer going to be selling Sean John, his clothing company, clothing line. Right. And yeah, there are people pulling out. I hope he's been saving and investing his money because he's going to need it. And I hope he has enough money to settle out whatever's coming. And I hope he has a pot for settlements because, to be honest, settle the cases, take the money that you currently have and continue investing. Buy some real estate, buy some investments, and lay low and live your life. Because honestly, you've been in the industry for a very, very long time. If you don't got no bread, that's on you.
Go into the priesthood. Make a name for yourself.
Lisa, I can't deal with you. All right, guys. You know what? All right, that's where we are. We've ended it. Jane Doe, an SA lawsuit against Diddy and others. And you already know we're talking civil court. This is not criminal court. It is all about the Benjamins, and that's Jane not in a bad way. And that's not in a bad way, guys. So we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Two Lawyers Talk Legacy, brought to you by Learn Biz, the podcast. We are on here whenever we get a chance to be on here. We'll hopefully get a schedule together, guys. We just busy. We lawyers.
Wednesday evenings for now.
We're reserving spots right now. But guys, continue to click like, click share. Please subscribe to our channel. Encourage your friends and family to subscribe to our channel. We are on the road to 1,000. We currently have 500 subscribers, actually almost 580 subscribers. And we are asking for your help. Please help us on our road to 1,000. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys so much for watching our channel. Our numbers are rising so much, and we appreciate you guys so much. And we hope you found this helpful. But again, civil means money.
Yep. Get paid.
Have a good night, guys. We'll see you on the next one next time.